Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
After we broke up, he was convicted as a felon for rape of a woman while he was in college. I hope he gets the worst things life can hand him. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Women and men of Reddit. What's your Me Too, sexual assault/harassment story? How are you doing now?
Number 1.
Commenter. When I was 16, I was living at home still with my incredibly abusive parents. I was suicidal and had just switched medications. My parents were going out of town for the weekend and decided to leave me at home. I begged them to go with them or have them stay and told them that I didn't feel safe being alone, but they left anyway. Because of my depression, I had lost a lot of friends and no one wanted to come over to stay with me. I went on World of Warcraft and was venting about it to some guild mates and my good WoW friend. My WoW friend was 24 at the time and he offered to come stay with me if I was too scared to be alone. I felt weird about it, but I really couldn't be alone and I thought I could trust him, so I said yes. On the way there I really wanted to say no, don't come, but I was worried about offending him. He got to my house, I let him in and we talked and watched a movie. Things were good. Then we went to Mimi's Cafe for dinner to get our food to go. When we got back to my house he got me a soda. This is where he slipped the drug into my drink. I suddenly was extremely tired, I couldn't walk or move. He picked me up and put me in bed. I don't remember anything else. I woke up the next morning and my shirt and pants were off and I had blood in between my thighs. My nipples were also bleeding because he had bitten them. He was cuddling me and when I came to, he gave me a kiss and said, "Last night it was so fun, I love you." I was shocked and confused. I also was at a point in my life where I could not mentally handle being raped and losing a friend on top of that. My brain kind of made up a situation where this was all okay and I had wanted it. I gave him a kiss, made him breakfast and finally got him out of my house. My parents got home later that evening. My mom got a call from one of our neighbors saying that there had been a man at our house the night before. My parents asked me about it and I said it was my friend's brother. They called my friend whose parents said no one had passed. My parents lost it, and I told them the truth. My mom had my dad drop me off at a youth homeless shelter because she would not have a slut living in her house, and within 6 months I was in foster care. Person B, shit like this gets me angry. Your parents disowned you for getting raped. Damn, that is messed up. Unconditional love is what we should have for our children. Be well. Commenter. I never told them that he raped me. I said it was consensual because otherwise I'd have to admit that my last friend at my darkest moment took advantage of me and I couldn't face that reality. My parents were already super messed up, so it was easier to face their wrath than accept what had happened, if that makes sense.
Number 2.
Commenter. When I was 10 my mom started dating this guy. Shortly after, he moved in with us. He was pretty cool at first, but then he started getting really inappropriate. Things escalated and he ended up molesting my sister and I for the next 2 years. Our mom knew about it too and didn't do anything. I still feel guilty for never speaking up and telling someone. I could have put a stop to it, but I didn't. Person B, don't feel guilty. You were so young. So young. I'm so sorry you went through this, and shame on your mother for not protecting you. You feel guilty now because hindsight is always 20/20, but you didn't do anything wrong. This is 100% the fault of that awful man and your mother's unwillingness to protect you. I truly hope you and your sister are doing all right now.
Number 3.
I was a flight attendant and had a coworker on an overnight invite to go over some contract details in his room after we had spent a few hours drinking. I believed he was gay. As soon as the door was closed he kissed me. I said no. He pushed me onto the bed until I passed out. He did not rape me, but I have no clue what else may have happened that night. I hate that I did not at least report him to the company we worked for. I never worked with him again on a flight, but I would see him every now and then at the airport crew room. This was over 10 years ago at this point.
Number 4.
When I was 22 I lived with a friend of mine. We had tried dating prior and it didn't work out, so whatever, roommates it was. We had hooked up a couple of times during this dating period we had, and after the fact I thought nothing of it. He apparently took it as him being entitled to it whenever he wanted to. One afternoon as I was about to leave the apartment to go meet a friend, he decided to act on it. I tried to fight him off, but as I was a good foot shorter than him it didn't do much good. It screwed me up for a long time, honestly. I had issues with my self-esteem and took way too many risks with sexual partners after that. I'm married now to a wonderful man who gets it, so thankfully everything turned out okay for me.
Number 5.
Commenter. I was stepping into a rickshaw in Quetta, Pakistan, when one of the native men standing around in the street stepped up behind me and tried his best to ram what felt like a couple of fingers into me through my jeans. Luckily the jeans were thick and I was wearing a sanitary napkin and his aim was off, but I ended up with a bruise on my perineum. To be honest, I had forgotten about it until recently when I was reviewing my journal from the trip. However, I still hold anger towards the boys in middle school who thought it was such fun to grab my, still growing and sensitive, breasts and occasionally my crotch, while passing me in the halls. Person B. Middle school was the beginning of sexual harassment for me. I was regularly herded into a corner, groped and threatened with rape. No one believed me.
Number 6.
I had a boyfriend back in 2013. My dad died in February of 2012 and I moved across the country to try and get my life back together. So, I didn't really have anybody here. It was after just a few months that he convinced me to move in with him. We were neighbors in the apartment complex, and it was after that point that things started to take a turn. He had to have sex, every single night. At first, if I didn't want to, he'd guilt trip me for hours, then days, until I'd give in. Then after a while, he'd start forcing me. I had insomnia and took medication for it. He'd wait for that to kick in, and then rape me. He would tell me that I just didn't know what being a relationship meant. I didn't know what love was. If I loved him, I would do this and this and this. He started restricting who I could talk to. I don't think I want to write out the rest of the story. I eventually was able to escape. My mom had to fly out from my home state, which she did at the drop of a hat, and help me pack my shit and run. I worked at a hotel and they let me stay there until I was able to find my new place. I hate that they call it intimate rape. There's nothing intimate about it. People told me to get back together with him too. That he loved me and we could work it out. F you.
Number 7.
First time, college party. I'm not sure what happened, but I kept not getting in my ride's cars. The last ditch effort in getting home was too drunk, and he passed out on the couch and said we'd go home in the morning. A different friend said I could sleep in his room and I'd be okay, as I was the only girl left. I fell asleep, remembered feeling being kissed, passed it off as dreaming and just kept sleeping. I woke up to him thrusting into me. Everything was fairly small so I didn't feel anything, and started to cry. I don't know if he finished, or what happened. I remember crying, and waking up. My brain has erased most of that night. Second time, ex-boyfriend. Besides the fact he started the night by cursing me out and berating me, I still thought he was just this drunk sweet angel. I pick him up from his night of drinking, try to make him some food to help sober him up. And he hits me. I run off, he consoles me, we go back to my apartment. In bed, sleeping, and he begins to force himself on me. Telling me I liked it, and whores like me deserve this. He had issues with people I slept with while we weren't together, despite the fact that he was the one cheating on me. I remember it hurt. I remember crying. And I remember fully consenting the next morning to a different round. Thinking, how could I be raped if this was someone I love? It took a few years, both times, to realize what had happened to me. I am at peace. I don't know what happened to the first guy, but my ex. He's a better person now, and I found it in me somewhere to forgive him for all of it. Sometime after the ex and I broke up, I dated another posse, that after we broke was convicted as a felon for rape of a woman while he was in college. I hope he gets the worst things life can hand him. I'm lucky I don't remember a lot. I don't want to remember. I'm scared it will happen again. But I know it's okay, that I'm okay, that I will move on and live. We all will.
Number 8.
Commenter. I'm a straight male, for context. About 10 years ago, while on a college break, I went to a St. Patty's Day house party with a bunch of my closest high school friends. The host's brother was there, who I didn't know well, but he seemed like a pretty typical meathead. None of us drank in high school, so we were laughing at ourselves while exchanging college drinking stories. I told one of mine, and for whatever reason the brother didn't believe me. The story was nothing special, and got really mad about it. He then challenged me to a fight, but I was like, nah, I'm good, and it seemed to de-escalate for a minute. I'm sitting down at the time and he proceeds to sit on my lap. I'm kind of stunned because it's just very strange, but he weighed much more than I did and I physically could not push him off. Meanwhile, all my friends are laughing at the situation as I struggle to free myself. I start asking and then pleading for their help, but they just watch and laugh as he then grabs hold of my crotch, sits for another minute, and finally gets up. The whole thing was incredibly bizarre, but obviously I felt very violated. I told my friends they were assholes and they waved it off. What? It's funny, not a big deal, chill out. I ended up dropping all contact with the host. Since it was her brother, I expected her help if no one else's, and years later my other high school friends still didn't understand why I hated her. Her brother came out years later, which doesn't really change anything about what happened, but I guess maybe there was something going on there behind the scenes in his head. I think about it whenever this stuff gets brought up. I'm only still in contact with a couple of these folks, just due to naturally drifting apart, but it still bothers me immensely when I see them championing people coming out with their stories and attacking the Harvey Weinsteins of the world. All I can think is you had a chance to stop an incident that took place right in front of you and you laughed.
Number 9.
Commenter. When I was a 10-year-old boy, I was selling candy bars door to door to raise money for our soccer team. My mom always told me, when you go door to door, take your big sister with you. I broke that rule once, and it was a mistake. I had gone down to the end of the block to sell some bars to my friend's mom. When I left, I saw that the house on the other side of the street had their lights on. My sister and I had tried there the day before, but no one was home. Oh, goody, I had a chance to sell an extra bar or two. I knocked on the door and a chubby blonde woman my height, I was really tall for a 10-year-old, opened the door. I explained about the bars for sale. She told me, "Oh, look how cute you are. Listen, if you come inside, I'll give you an extra special treat for your team." I was so excited that I went inside thinking it would be a big help to my team. Once inside, she started caressing my back and telling me how handsome I was. When she pulled my shirt off, I completely froze in the moment and couldn't do anything. She took this as a good sign. When she got me naked on the bed and started stimulating me, I could only think, oh, God, it's happening again, and went out of my head disassociating. I don't know how, but somehow she just knew I was vulnerable to being abused since it had already happened before. She smelled it on me and somehow just knew it. When the older boys on the street talked about getting their girlfriends naked, they said it was so awesome. What was wrong with me that it didn't sound so awesome? And it sounds insane. A woman rapist? That lures in little children. That never happens. Right? Right? Person B, what's sad is that, for many people, this kind of thing is portrayed as a fantasy for young boys, and that they should enjoy it. Kind of like whenever you see those news articles where a female teacher has an affair with a young student. All of the comments reference how lucky the kid is.
Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.